Hey there, black powder enthusiast. Another Taurus High Point production coming at you. Happens to be Ray Shepard. Woo! It's crazy. Ooh, another chain fire video. I know that's just something we all want to hear, but if you're new, relatively new, or if you have an actual open mind, you may want to hang around for this video. If you're one of those that's set and you have your own staunch belief on what happens with chain fire, how it happens, perhaps this is not the video for you. Now, in chain fire, what is it? In chain fire is where you fire your top chamber, okay, which goes out the barrel, and one of these other chambers fires behind it. Generally, it's going to be one to the left or to the right. Generally, unless somebody has done something dastardly to you, such as this is your first experience with cap and ball, and this person has taken a 44 cylinder, such as this one, and he's dropped in his 20 grain charges, dropped in a wad, and put in a 390 or a 440 round ball, and push that, threw a little grease over the top, and is standing in the corner giggling at you. That's one way chain fire happens. Somebody sets you up. You go to the store clerk, you're buying your first cap and ball, whether it's a 36, a 44. Let's say you're buying a 36 and the clerk purposely sells you 360, 365 round ball, a little bit of Thompson's bore butter, some wads, a Pyrodex or gunpowder, tells you 15 to 20 grains. You go out, load everything up, and shoot it yourself and have that chain fire happen. Again, you're agitated, you don't know what's going on, and the clerk is back in the store laughing at you. That's another way I've seen chain fire happen. But I've recently, in the last 18 to 22 months or so, I've had 3 happen to me. So, and I'm going to get into those and hopefully explain yeses and nos about certain aspects of chain fire. Do they happen from the front? Yes, they do. I've had 2 happen with this particular cylinder, and 1 happen with a 36 caliber Navy rather than the 44 Navy. What caused them? Generally anybody's guess, but as I explain this as we go along, maybe you'll see it in the same light that I do. Okay. The first one I had, set the cylinder off, boom, or set the chamber off, sent the round down range. I felt this was a cylinder that discharged right behind this one. I was using wads and grease at that time, actually a homemade, my homemade bullet lube. Okay, it was about a 100-degree day outside though, so after that first one went, it probably knocked that loose, and some of the flame got down there behind it, setting that chamber off, sending that ball downrange at the same time that one went. When the chamber indexed, the cap was still there. And I was like, well, for experimentation purposes, let me go ahead and drop the hammer on that cap. And when I did, that cap ignited. The cap was still good, so I know it didn't happen from the cap end. It had to have gotten in from the front. And that was with wads and grease. I loaded up another cylinder sometime later. Might have been 4 months, might have been 3 months, somewhere around in that time frame. I was not using wads and grease. I was using a 440 round ball, 454 round ball. Again, sending the top cylinder, or top chamber, out the barrel. The last chamber fired. Boom. Okay. As the cylinder rotated, made its way around, got back to that last chamber, I noticed there was no cap on the rear end, and that the ball and wad and ball was missing. Okay, I had no wads and grease at that time. Did it get in from the front, or did it get in from the rear where the cap had fallen off, or did the cap get blown off with the ignition of the chamber from the first round to leave? Nobody knows. On my 36, I was running some homemade caps, and when the top cylinder ignited, I had a sympathetic discharge of the chamber. I believe it was again the last chamber that would have been coming around. When that chamber didn't finally make it all the way around, the cap was still on it. When the hammer fell, there was no discharge, if you would, from the cap. I pulled the hammer back, pulled the cap off. When I looked at the back of the cap, it was completely charred on the inside. And it tells me fire had gotten from here to here and ignited the cap on the inside. Where does chain fire happen from? From my experiences, from the front or from the rear. It can happen from either side. Now, one thing I'm 100% sure about is it doesn't happen from the side. This has been a Taurus High Point production. Another video on chain fire. I know, good gads, like we need another one, but maybe you're new. Maybe you've had it recently happen and are trying to figure it out yourself. Perhaps I have shed a little bit of light for you. Been a Taurus High Point production. I choose, therefore I am responsible.